well. We're going to have an interesting night tonight. Talking about UFOs, conspiracies, with NASA and everything. What's happening with UFOs at the moment? Because they seem to be all around us, wherever we see in the skies, in every continent in the world. But some say, what a load of rubbish. Some say they don't exist. But I'm sure my guest tonight will tell us all different. Can we please welcome Tony Topping to the show? Hello, Tony.
Hello, Bob. Glad to be on the show, and good evening to your listeners from around the world.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to have you on. I've been looking forward to it all week now, because I know you're an authority on UFOs and conspiracies, and can you just tell us how you got into UFOs, and what made you start looking into it?
Well, I'm what's known in the UK as a contactee. I'm a person who's experienced UFOs, and basically that means, Bob, that it kind of like happens at many levels. So it's like a process of education, a process of consciousness, and sometimes it has a cost to it. But I didn't know any of this. All that began really in about '96. But, I started having visions in early childhood. At 2 years of age was my first vision. And it was interesting that about 2 years ago it was clarified as to what that was all about. Now, some people would say that that's false memory syndrome. It certainly was not. It actually happened in the room. Two of them, when I was 2 years of age, walked through the room. And I was screaming at my father. I was turning around to my father and trying to communicate with him what I'd seen, which was as clear as bloody day. And my father said, "Oh, there's nothing there. Please don't worry about it." Nothing there at all. And there was something clearly there. So I'd been tracked since the age of 2. And kind of like didn't think anything of it. And I moved to London. I got a job in acting school. My father was a healer, a very powerful one. We didn't get on. He was a very powerful healer, and he could kind of like instead of giving me a slap on the backside if I was a naughty boy, he'd give me headaches instead, Bob. So he'd have me flat out on the bed with headache if I was naughty, and I was only age 7 to 8 there. So it wasn't a very good relationship. But he could heal, and he was very good at it. He was healing people's toothache. He brought someone back from the brink from the back of an ambulance. He was having a heart attack. He revived him with his hands, laying of hands. The ambulance crew were astounded. And he was stationed in Vienna, in Russia, in Vienna, in Russia. Sorry, in Vienna. In Austria, and he was approached, so he told me, and he never went into any further details, by somebody who worked for the KGB, and they approached him, and he played it down. I've reason to suspect, Bob, that because of the fact of the matter was that he was gifted at what he did, that he may have been of interest to some people even back then. But I'm not too sure on that, because the poor man had a mental breakdown. And he had to come back to Selby. The reason why I say this, Bob, is there's a possibility that this kind of spiritual thing that we're talking about that merges into the UFO phenomena, there's a possibility that he may have been monitored. And what happens is in the UK is that if you have interaction with UFOs, there is an unwritten law. If you're a member of the public and you start liaising with UFOs and the people behind them, there is an unwritten law that says, no, you can't do that, and you'll have the unelected secret police coming after you. But you will equally have technology corporations looking at your information. It's a dual-edged sword. So you have these conflicting shadow elements. One element that's esoteric or occult that wants to kind of cover it up, and then another element that is corporate that would like their hands on some of this technology that's within the craft. I'm going to tell you later on of an astounding story to do with a UFO that happened to me recently, and it was astounding. So we'll do it. But basically, Bob, I went to London. Oh yeah. Well, I went to London. The thing is, if you're an individual in the UK and you're having liaison, you'll be targeted. You'll come under mind control. You'll come under aggressive control effects. You'll have the secret police watching you, and you're not sure who's watching you back. You're not sure. You're running the gauntlet of being taken away to the asylum. You're running the gauntlet of your whole life caving in around you because you are having a genuine liaison with something that's coming in over your house that isn't from round here. And it's that simple. The liaison is that simple. They're not from round here. In some cases, they're from the Andromeda galaxy and other galaxies, but mainly Andromeda, from that region, the one I'm liaising with. But I'm jumping the narrative. So basically, I went to London, Bob, and my first UFO... But is it all right? Okay. My first interaction happened about 92, before I went to London, actually, where one came in over the house, where I am now. About 5 seconds over the house, like something out of Close Encounters, and then disappeared. And I thought, good God, what's all that about? And I was lucky enough to get into drama school, and I went to one of the top London stage schools, and then left stage school, and started having, in London, some very weird interactions with these dots of light that kept following me everywhere, including one that I thought was nearly going to crash into a block of flats. I remember nearly running up to a fire engine and saying, hey, that's going to crash into a block of flats. Pardon me, and it didn't. It vanished, in fact. And this started this long history, Bob, of interaction. And I moved back to Selby, and I had my first interaction in '96, really, when they came in over the house again. Big orange flash. These two balls of light merge as one, and this big orange flash. It woke my mother up, and all hell broke loose from that point onwards. And that includes interaction. I was asleep in '97. That was. I was asleep, and one of these kind of beings, one of these female alien women, walked into my dreamscape. We'll call it a dreamscape for simplicity's sake. So I'm asleep. If you can imagine being asleep, Bob, and something walking into that dream, literally walking in as if into a movie, and saying, "Hello, how do I look?" And looking back at you, and you're thinking, "Good God, you're not human. You don't look anything like you're alien. You're not." It's quite shocking. And so that happened, and then we had the UFO coming over the house in about 1999. And what happened was there, Bob, the UFO came in over my house, and it illuminated a television antenna twice, and then it went on its way. And all hell broke loose then, Bob. That's when I started being followed. The phone calls, the helicopter, the unmarked helicopter. I was filmed by an unmarked helicopter. It was like something out of a James Bond movie. This helicopter just appeared over a rooftop. Oh, God. It appeared over a rooftop, Bob, and it was from one Yorkshireman to another. He was side on to me in this unmarked green helicopter, and he kept being side on to me because he's doing measurement analysis. So he had to be side on to me because his technical equipment needed to measure me, and he needed to be side on. It was baffling that his flight. So he wasn't facing me at any point with his helicopter. He kept having to go side on to me. I thought, that's very revealing. And what happened was he hovered over a lamppost, the height of a lamppost across a road junction. It was like something out of a Jason Bourne film. And there's fishermen, Bob, on the canal with their hands on their hips, wondering what's going on. There's vehicles parking their own. And I'm getting chaos because of it. The phone's ringing. I'm being followed. It's all a bit mysterious. And it wasn't very pleasant. These people who were following me started using mind-invasive technology. And that's for another show, Bob. We won't go down that route, I think, because I want to keep it all about UFOs. Because the mind-invasive stuff is a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a dark road to discuss. And really we want to keep the show. We need to keep it lifted, yeah? It's not that these things shouldn't be discussed, because they should. You know what I'm saying? What I'm going to say is this. I do, well, for example, they were hitting me. Well, they were hitting me, Bob, night and day, and they were hitting me round about 4 in the morning, waking me up to go to the loo, ringing alarm clocks in my head. They have the technology to do this. But at one point in the proceedings, something has happened over the past 2 years, and it's been going on for 15, 16 years, but something has happened, whereby you suddenly evolve above them. You suddenly realise that these people who have been doing this have got themselves involved in some kind of very big game that is quite beyond them. It's slightly beyond me. But that's kind of like in a nutshell. So basically, Bob, if you're having interaction with UFOs and you're a UK citizen, the media will take the mickey out of you, although not being too bad, but the media will. You'll be targeted by an unknown secret police, and you'll also be watched by elements of the military who want their hands on technological information. So it's a many-faceted thing. And there's a cover-up higher than the atomic bomb about it. There's a high-level cover-up. Every government in the world knows, Russia especially. America certainly does. America is so involved, it's probably involved in ways that it can't even comprehend yet with it. And it covers the natures of time and space and the future and time travel.
Yeah.
It's all in there, Bob. When you start,
I can
when it
imagine
starts
so.
arriving on your doorstep. Yeah.
Because the trouble with America, they always deny everything, all knowledge. It's always kept secret, but things do come out. You know, nowadays you can go on YouTube, you see so many UFOs all the time from day to day, and they're still denying, saying what a load of rubbish that is. That was done by
They did.
This was done on the computer.
That's right.
And
it's absolutely
don't
correct.
let anybody have an opinion.
She was telling me was Eisenhower's great-granddaughter, Bob. It is the problem. And Eisenhower's great-granddaughter was telling me during a radio interview that I did, because I occasionally do my own little radio show. I've stopped doing it now, but I used to do it on Blog Talk. And anyway, she was telling me that her granddad, Ike, Dwight Eisenhower, I didn't know this, but a family member had told her that he had nearly 3 heart attacks because he was aware of the UFO situation and the cover-up involved with it all. He'd had about 3 heart attacks because of the stress that it causes. It's not fluffy. It's not all spiritual and light and kind of like the Space Brothers are here to deliver us. It can get a bit grisly, Bob. It can. But there again, on saying that, when you really drill it down, it is about spirituality. And it is about consciousness when you really, really drill it down. But you've got to really drill it down. And in the way of that will be a lot of tricksters, a lot of dark forces, a lot of people out there who kind of like are wanting to throw you off that path of understanding. And the liaison with them, can be absolutely astounding. I mean, if you want me to go into that, I can do. This happened all in the past 2 years where it really got a bit full on with them. So we can go down there, haven't you, if you want, mate?
You can explain to the listeners about what's happened in the last couple of years. I'm sure
they'd like
to know, coming from you, because it might experience to somebody else. And they might want to know all about it as well.
You're correct, Bob, in that sense, because there's something on next. I use metaphors from films quite a bit because I find that some of the film stuff that we see in the cinema has some really accurate metaphors as to what is going on. Just recently on Netflix there was a drama by the Wachowski brothers who brought The Matrix, which is very close to the mark as well in ways that probably we don't quite comprehend. But they brought out this thing called Sense8. And what it is, Bob, is that seemingly there are 8 people in different countries who are all telepathically linked, and nobody knows why. They don't know why. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what's going on. And it does appear to me that this is a similar scenario, that there are people who are having these UFO experiences, and we're all linked, but we don't know why. And that seems to be currently where it's at the moment, and it can't be stopped either. So it doesn't matter how much cover up and flack they put up to kind of like try and say that it's not happening. It is going on.
Yes.
It certainly is. And for example, there was a guy who appeared on Whitley Strieber's radio show. He was a NASA scientist. And he appeared on, it's the only radio show he's been on. I asked him to come on my show, but he's not replied, and I can understand that, because the worst thing America ever did, Bob, was let the Nazis in after World War II. It was the worst mistake they ever did, at many levels, including it was just a very bad mistake. But that's another story. Your listeners may not know that at the end of World War II, the scientific base that belonged to Nazi Germany was then filtered into America and Britain under something called Operation Paperclip. And this included probably, more than likely, the understanding of the UFO phenomena as well. But it was probably the worst thing they ever did. But you see, these scientists went into NASA with their rockets and all this kind of thing, and they were probably aware of the UFO situation. This guy appears on Whitley Strieber's show, and he explains, and I thought it was so good that I uploaded it to my YouTube channel, and I ended up getting an email from a family member of his, saying it is Mr. So-and-so, Mr. X, we'll call him. He is based at a certain propulsion lab. Look him up kind of thing. And I looked him up, and I was astounded, Bob. He's there. He's definitely out there. He was working on propulsion calculations that he couldn't fathom, and he had a UFO interaction. He woke up in his bedroom to discover the place covered in a star map, and 2 extraterrestrials stood in his room. And another incident happened on a roadside with his girlfriend. Big UFO turned up, and he said that the calculations he was working on, he couldn't have cracked it without their assistance. He strongly believes that they had assisted him, and he strongly believes that they are from another dimension, which they are, and he strongly believes that they are having an impact, a very subtle impact on the way we do things and where we are going. And that relates to me, Bob, in a very strange way, because it's been quite a nightmare. All interactions, as far as I'm concerned, with UFOs, and this is kind of like some of your listeners might look into, happen in a space-time continuum, in a dreamscape. So the interactions that happen with me, they can happen when they're coming over the house and I see them and they can telepathically interact. But in some cases with human beings, we're tuned differently. Some human beings are tuned differently to others. Some of the Russian psychic warfare research that they did with a special unit in the KGB indicate that they did a different method. The Americans used a remote viewing technique, and the Russians use a brain tuning technique. Very scant information about that, but the brain, Bob, can be tuned differently. And so some of us are tuned differently, and we carry a signature, which means we'll just get activity, paranormal activity, all kinds of activity thrown at us. And that's the way the cookie crumbles with it. And that's what happened there. And so, going back to about two to 3 years, it became a nightmare with these UFOs coming in, going out, and nobody knowing the reason why. And then just recently, in about 2014, the Ukraine crisis was really, really cranking up. Russia was postulating NATO was expanding eastwards. NATO are an organisation that's very involved in the UFO stuff, and I'll come to that. But basically, it happened to me, Bob. One of the things that I did with NATO was I'd rang their headquarters, daftly enough, a few years ago, many years ago actually, before the interactions happened. I'd moved back from London. I just rang them because I wanted to know about a document that they had called the assessment. This guy, Staff Sergeant Robert Dean, indicated that NATO had done an assessment of what this UFO situation was all about, because it had nearly triggered a war between Russia and them. The Russians thought that the jets were NATO, and NATO thought the jets were Russian on the radar, but they weren't jets at all, they were UFOs, and they did this assessment document. And so I rang them and said, have you got this document called the assessment? The lady very politely said, no such thing, put the phone down. And then kind of like a few days later, man up a telegraph pole, Bob. I don't know whether I'm being paranoid, but there was a man up a telegraph pole. I don't know whether the phone had got tapped, but as I say, the UFO started coming in. I started getting the aggro, and all I was getting, Bob, was UFOs flying over me, dots of light, nothing really happening until about 2 years ago, when I was doing something for the broadcaster Channel 4. And what happened was that I was being clattered, Bob, with it all. I can't describe it to you other than it's kind of like as if your mind is being invaded here, there, and everywhere, because you're tuned uniquely. Yeah, you're uniquely tuned. And there'll be people out there, if we use the Sense 8 metaphor, there'll be other people out there who will be tuned in that sense, but they'll be in the low numbers. So what happened was I'm asleep, and I'm due to go and film for Channel 4. Outside a prestigious international institute that deals with the issues of foreign affairs and all that kind of thing. I was due to go and film there, which we did. But on that morning, I had this spectacular vision in sleep, which left no doubt in my mind, Bob. It was 2 UFOs, 2 triangle craft, and they came into my sleep. And good God, the vision, it was absolutely incredible. And it was what happened was there were 2 clocks. One said 1:45 to midnight, and the other said 5 to midnight. These clocks were their art, the iconography of them was incredible. And then there was a guy who I can only describe him, Bob, as being in his 30s, a little bit taller than the average human bloke, but he was not from round here. He was definitely alien, blonde, blue-eyed, and he was speaking to someone, Bob. Who the hell he was speaking to, I have no idea, because the volume was turned off, you couldn't hear him, but he was speaking to somebody, specifically somebody, some entity, some organisation. He was speaking to them. And then it all went blank, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened, because we saw this de-escalation of Russia and NATO in the Ukraine, a slight de-escalation. And so it was interesting to see them appear for the first time in years. And they started appearing from the year 2014 they started coming into my sleep and appearing and letting them know who they were, and they're definitely not from round here. And some of them, Bob, are dimensional. Some of them are not also kind of like this. So this, what makes me unique, is that I can see into this environment and I can understand what's kind of going on at some level with them. But that vision was absolutely staggering, what they'd done. And the artist, a guy called Lloyd Canning, pity I didn't email it to you. I'll email it to you later on, Bob. You can have a look at it. He did this incredible painting of what I saw. He brought the vision to life of the clocks, the triangle craft. What is interesting is that this guy, who was blonde, blue-eyed, he matched a description of an incident that happened down in Cornwall a few years ago with a police sergeant who saw 3 men in a field who matched that description. And he said, this police sergeant said these 3 men were looking at a crop circle. They were tall, they were blonde, they didn't look specifically human at all, and we ended up running and disappearing from him. Now, that's a police sergeant on duty, and he'd seen them. So they're around, Bob, you know, they're around.
Yes,
and
they are.
even more staggering from your listeners is the fact that the Zulu nation classed them as Wazugu. These blonde people from other galaxies, they classed them as the Wazugu. They were the first human beings the Zulu nation ever saw. They weren't human beings, but they were the first people that the Zulu ever saw, really, from another place. And they called them the Wazugu. So when they set eyes upon the European male, they called them the Wazugu, thinking that they were not from Europe, thinking they were from the stars above. And our folklore is enriched with it, and all that kind of thing, Bob. So this is kind of like where it's at the moment, and it can get quite hair-raising. It really can.
Well, Sarah's just come in the chat room, and she was just saying, whereabouts have you had your experiences? I presume she wants to know. Yes.
These experiences have happened kind of like, I live in a town called Selby near York, and they've also happened in Merseyside in Southport. And I know a few weeks back as well, Bob, I was having a catnap one afternoon. This was a few weeks back, and I knew that they were over the house when I was sleeping. There was this whooshing sound in the room. There was this strange sensation, and I have the strangest feeling, Bob, that I had been put back in the room. Even though they appeared to be present in the room, I have this strange sensation that perhaps I had been taken out. I travelled across the UK with them. Yeah, and not, well, maybe abducted, I don't know, and then put back in the room. But to all intents and purposes, it was about a 4-second vision of them. They were telling me that they were over the house. They were saying hello, and they were quite comical about it. They have a sense of humour. You have to have a sense of humour, Bob. You really do, or you'll end up going bonkers. As so many of us who are involved in this nearly do, Bob. There's no dressing it up. We nearly go absolutely raving mad with it all because it's a lot for a human being, an individual, to handle. It really is. So, yeah. And
Sarah's just asked another question. Have you interacted with these dimensional beings?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. The ones that we are talking about are not so much dimensional. They're more like us and not from round here, Bob. And they are known as Nordic, or Nord, commonly. They're blonde, blue-eyed, and their craft is very advanced. And I'll tell you the story about that in a minute because I find it staggering, just staggering what happened. I do believe that I'm having interaction with them, and I probably have had full-blown interaction with them, but they have this like memory screening, so you won't be able to kind of fully recall what they're doing, and then the recall will probably come through, which is probably why I'm getting hit as I am at the moment, because the recall, the screen memories, the memories of what's gone on with them will definitely surface with them. Because I have had images of cities and images of spectacular sites of cities and where they're located and all that kind of thing. Yeah. But nothing, what is frustrating me, Bob, is it can get a little creepy with them because you don't know what, let's be frank about it, there's no point in it to one Yorkshireman to another, can get a little creepy because you don't quite know what they're doing or what their agenda is. And that's the thing to bear in mind. If I could maybe steer your listeners to Colonel Philip Corso when he, I don't know whether your listeners are aware of him. Are you aware of Colonel Philip Corso, Bob?
Yes, I've heard.
Okay. Colonel Philip Corso did a book called The Day After Roswell. Everybody discredited him, and it is alleged by Colonel Corso that they recovered UFOs from Roswell, and that UFO material was back-engineered into our society. The technology was back-engineered, and we see it in our technological base today, from TVs to transistors to circuits and so on. And true, yeah. And what happened was that everybody discredited him, but his boss wrote an autobiography, Arthur Trudeau. He wrote an autobiography, and I understand in that autobiography there's a paragraph that verifies all what Corso's saying, blink and you'd miss it kind of thing. These are subtle things that go on. So what is interesting is he had to define, the US Army at the time, had to define what was foreign, Bob. They had to understand what was foreign. And when they said foreign, it was called the Foreign Technology Acquisitions Division. So it just didn't mean foreign as in foreign army or as in foreign. It meant foreign as in not of Earth. So what you're perhaps dealing with is a foreign kind of, not so much intrusion, but a foreign people from elsewhere with technology that's very different from us. And that's how they'd probably see it, foreign. And what are they doing here? What are they up to? Why are they interested in me and other people? And this is the kind of thing that happens, Bob. And through the years, layer after layer through history, you discover that esoteric secret societies know this. We are dominated by secret societies, and therefore there's an occult element to it, an occult cover-up to it, whereby such secret societies have had dominance for a very long time, and they know about these interactions, and they know about all this. So that's where it's at. So, foreign, that's what they class it as, foreign. They're a foreign kind of force, they're a foreign military, a foreign government even. It's kind of like, yet it's strangely spiritual, Bob, but there's all that protocol involved, just the same kind of thing, from what I'm gathering, And, the thing with this, Bob, with me, is that I only need a couple of pieces of staggering information from them that could change things. Only a couple of pieces, and the whole paradigm comes crashing down, doesn't it? And that, not just me, could be somebody else. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
But that in itself, Bob, reveals some staggering complexities to it, because from what I understand with these guys, these blonde, blue-eyed folk, is that they are disclosing. Not our government's disclosing, they are in kind of disclosure to us. This will mean that it seems to only go at the pace the human race can handle. We're on an evolutionary timeline about 100 years, 140 years to grasp it. It's going to take that long, but they will only go at the pace we can handle. That's the thing with them, which I found fascinating. I gleaned that from my experiences, that they would only go at the pace we can kind of handle. I'm repeating myself. So there you go, Bob. That's kind of like what goes on, really. I don't know if your listeners have got any questions. I seem to have waffled.
All sudden, like you say, came, and the chip was there, and that, we went from a massive TV to a very thin one. Mobile phones came out.
Yes.
Lots of different things came out. Where did the technology came from?
You're right, Bob. You're right. And the thing with it is that their craft, which are triangle craft, that they use triangle, their technology basis of these blonde, blue-eyed people is staggering, because their craft is very, very advanced. You're talking something that's kind of air, sea, space capable. It's not just it doesn't just travel in the air like an aircraft. It's has dual kind of capability. And the thing is with it is, Bob, is that they flew over one day. One Sunday morning when I was in Merseyside, and I knew I'd been taken out. I mean, I knew I'd literally been taken into the craft over the house and back. I knew, but I couldn't remember anything else other than this kind of staggering event that happened, where I strongly believe that it wasn't the crew were integrated with them, but I strongly believe that I was speaking to the craft itself, and I strongly believe that I was speaking to a machine intelligence, which is the most unusual and staggering experience, Bob, that as a contactee I have, and I don't know where that's leading, but I have reason to suspect that that's what happened, and which means that you're dealing with a culture and a civilization that's conquered artificial intelligence, that seems to know is advanced, has conquered kind of like their craft, space travel, the light speed barrier. Can you imagine a corporation like Boeing, or Saab wanting a bit of that action. A craft that's air-sea capable, space capable, can locate the crew. If they got lost, this thing can locate where they are because they're all linked into it. In other words, what one sees, they all know kind of scenario. And I kid you not, Bob, that went on with me. If I could communicate the experience of it, that this craft, which is a machine, was saying hello, how are you? And it was inquisitive as to what I was, who I was. It had a natural inquisitiveness about it, and it was a machine. Yeah, and it wanted to know. And a second incident happened last week with it again, where they were over the house. And this time I knew it was a split second, but it was as if I was travelling in it at a very fast speed. And then I was put back again. And then all bloody hell breaks loose, because this Earth, Bob, is surrounded by esoteric forces that are kind of like a rule for quite a long time. They must be respected. And you get all that coming at you, and you get all the bloody stuff. And it'll happen to other people, not just me. There'll be somebody out there who's having these experiences as well, But that, for me, so far, has been the most staggering experience of knowing that this craft is present, knowing that it has a mind of its own. It's just staggering, and I'd love to kind of find out a bit more, frankly. I really would, as to how it all works and how it can travel in the blink of an eye, which is what it appeared. The experience was as if we were going somewhere in the blink of an eye, Bob. We were here, we were gone, at tremendous speed, somewhere else, and then put back again. And that's routine for a contactee to experience that. It's what's buried beneath the memories, you see, I think, is the thing.
Good.
I can't think of anything else to say, Bob.
No, it's all right. When you feel as though you're interacting or whatever, how do you feel just after that? When you feel as though you've gone in a craft and come back and you're back where you started, how do you feel in yourself then?
Yes, that's a very good question, Bob.
Do you feel good?
Yes. Right, yeah. So it's a good question, and the answer is disorientated, confused. You don't know where you are. We have a paradigm system in our society today that would suggest that this is all the product of fantasy and delusion. But I only need, Bob, as does somebody else, we only need to get some golden nuggets of information. We only need some great information from them that would send that all shattering. So the Russians knew all this, Bob. I mean, the Russian had a special unit. Russia had a special unit called Troop 10,003, and there's a guy in the US called Joseph McMoneagle who's an acquaintance of mine. He's looked at my experiences and more or less indicated that they are exceptional human experiences, or what was termed EHE. And the situation is that he put me in contact with a guy called Alexei Savin, who was his opposite number in Russia, who was in charge of their remote viewing organization. What is staggering about that is that this guy ran this psychic spying remote viewing unit and did a whole project, which is not in the Western media, but is in the Russian domain. He did a whole project to do with the contact of extraterrestrials. He had a whole team of female remote viewers. He didn't want to use men, not being sexist, but that seemed to be his preference was for women because they were better at it, better at understanding what was going on, more intuitive. And so he used a team, and he gleaned information from this civilization. Now, he didn't state if it was them, but he gleaned some very important information and also medical information as well. Nothing military, just medical. I wouldn't want to know anything military, Bob, for my own sanity. I wouldn't want them to tell me about anything military because I think it just puts it with. So his unit contacted them. The data was very accurate, he said, because it was all focused on the quality of data that he was receiving from them, and it was all medical information. What I found even more staggering, Bob, was that he gave this interview to Pravda, to the Russian journalists. Can you imagine a British general going, oh yes, UFOs, oh no, oh yeah, on the British media? Could you imagine that happening? You couldn't, could you? And it was just unbelievable, just absolutely unbelievable. And so, the countries, including India and China, are aware. There's the hilarious story of this guy in India who owns a garage, Bob. I find it hilarious. Owns this garage in some village in Ladakh, and according to his report, he's got this old black and white TV. And he says that next minute, and I don't think there'd be any reason for him to lie. He's been going years, garage mechanic. He says on his TV suddenly is the appearance of this woman who didn't look human. talking in Hebrew or Sanskrit or whatever it was, more or less saying that, look, we're in the area, don't worry, we wish you no harm, good day. And seemingly there are UFOs in that area to which the Indian Air Force and the Chinese Air Force do not venture into. The Ladakh region, they keep out the way because there are UFOs in that area. And the villagers, Bob, actually call them the sky gods, the people from the skies above. The villagers are aware of them. So if you single out a small village somewhere in India or Peru, in Peru, for example, they'll say, yeah, the UFOs go down the road, turn left. It's that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Casualness about it. There's a casualness about it, even though our paradigm and our belief systems.
And it's no different in life to them, is it?
You got it, mate. You got it, and that's where we're aiming for with this. That's where we're aiming for with all this. I keep seeing them. It becomes kind of like even, believe it or not, but even if I'm walking down the street one evening, something will fly over, and I'll just give it a wave. Now they're either checking up on me, they're monitoring. I don't know what they're doing, but they're there, and they'll just fly over just to say, and I'll just let them get on with it. And at some point, Bob, you cannot. What's the word? You can't assume anything. You can't assume you've just got to sit back and let go and let God with it all, because you're not sure where it's all going, mate. You're just not. No, you're certainly not.
What Sarah's just asking another question. Are there different dimensional beings?
Yes. Yes, there is a reverse dimension to ours. There are also parallel universes as well, which will. What happens normally with a contactee or experiencer, especially if the people are dimensional, is that you will cross a boundary, Bob. So this might not be written about in the UFO books. In real life, what will happen is you'll cross probably into a spiritual domain, into the spirit world, and then you'll cross across time and space. And then you'll cross into their dimension. And what is staggering about that, Bob, is this is when the time travel element of UFOs comes in, because you are now technically in dimension and further forward in time than where you are now. This because time does not exist; it's all collapsed into one singularity. So you're kind of like seeing time all the time, and that leaves a very strange effect, Bob. And what will happen is you'll then pass back. You'll get put back now where you are now, and you will be felt. It will feel as if you've been elsewhere, and that all this, it's as if you stood in 1900. It's so bizarre. It's a feeling of displacement because you've been put forward in time and have been put back again. It's the effects of time on the contactee, and a lot of contact experiences don't really. The ones that people want to look out for is the ones who talk about time travel. And anything to do related to the aliens speaking about time travel, and the fact that they refer to human beings as Earth human. If you hear anybody coming out with the aliens tell us that Earth humans are this, that's the term they refer us to as. They refer us to as Earth human. Earth human. Yeah, that's right. So it's interesting to note that they. That's what seems to go on with it, Bob. And of course, if you're crossing into from one dimension back into this dimension, there's a chance as well that you'll go into parallel universes. You'll see all that happen, and it's kind of like it's a bit like being an astronaut, but with different effects, but being put back on Earth with different effects. And your life can be a complete mess, Bob. My life is just crazy. It can be a complete mess. But because it's spiritual and because it's consciousness, another part of you is dealing with all that. Do you get my drift? So you could be the guy. You could be the guy propping up the bar in the pub, being drunk or whatever you want to be, or playing cards or whatever. And at first glance, nothing's going on. You're a complete average Joe. But at another level, there's all kinds of things going on. Because that's where it happens. It happens at another level. And that seems to be what's happening.
I can imagine so, because you tend to just get mixed up in everything then, and you just find it difficult to do an everyday job. If you had a full-time job and having to deal with all this other, you won't be able to do it.
You can't. I'm on 4 legs. I'm on 2 legs instead of 4, Bob. Put it that way. You know, we balance on 2 legs instead of 4 with it, because it's absolutely breathtaking what goes on. And when I go to sleep tonight, I won't be sleeping like ordinary people. Something else may happen. Something might turn up. What is creepy about it, Bob, and elusive, is I have no idea why. And that's the thing. I don't know why, but I'm 3/4 there. A lot of what goes on I now understand, which I didn't understand a few years ago, but I now understand. And it's down to the way some of us are configured within the grander scheme of things, you know, the way some of us are wired to the cosmos. It seems to be down to a bit of that going on, Bob. So that means that you would certainly be wired. Some of your listeners will certainly be wired. In other words, it's a signature. We are tuned to this signal, and no matter...
Yes.
How much how much nastiness goes on in our world, as we can see, it's turning itself apart at the moment. We are still tuned. We are still unique. We are still tuned to this dimensional kind of creative signal that's coming across time and space from another dimension, and is probably, I would guess, and this only recently happened, this conclusion happened a few weeks ago with me, you're probably a grand designer. The intelligence of it is not human, and it's designed us. And science has understood this. Science has explored the fact that we are, as you probably know, Bob, on the internet recently. Science, again, India, I think. We're a holographic projection. We may be looking through holograph. We might be a holographic projection of something else. And this is this kind of these staggering conclusions. But I think it will be interesting, Bob, with these people who are visiting with the craft. Interesting to understand their spirituality. Interesting to hear what their folklore is all about. I have a friend in Sweden who's liaising with them, and it's quite interesting because he can tell me something and I can verify that. I've got a cross correlation. He's in Sweden, Carl, and he can kind of verify stuff. And from what he told me, they said that they were visiting Earth from about 6 BC and so on and so forth. And I was told that they're a nation of seafarers. But the thing is, why, Bob? Why would they spend all this time? I don't know. I know that in real life it's happening. I know a few months back in St. Anne's, I had a heckler. He was drunk, and I was giving a talk, and he started heckling me, saying, were they coming across the other galaxies just to visit you? Oh, you're a good salesman. You're a con man. And I actually said to him, they're not just coming to visit me. They could be visiting you, Bob. They could be visiting you. They could be visiting me. It's not just about me.
A lot of different people.
It's about and the biology and the understanding of it all. It's not just about one individual. It just isn't. And it's been quite hair-raising.
I think a lot of people do experience in higher consciousness about UFOs. Sometimes in the sleep pattern somewhere, you think, oh, did that really happen then? Did that go?
That's it.
Or not?
That's it.
And 9 times out of 10, you probably have gone away on a little voyage and then come back again.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I've possibly seen in my lifetime dealing with the UFOs, Bob, 5 species of alien that look exactly like us but aren't. The 2 heads, 2 arms. I've never seen a grey, and that's not to say that there isn't one. I have seen Draco. Joseph McMonigal has seen Draco lizard. They are about, I do believe. That they're there, but I've seen staggering redhead-looking women. I've seen staggering Oriental-looking women. We've seen males who are certainly very close to looking like us, but aren't. Their eye lines are kind of like where their eyes are situated, are spaced a bit more round the forehead. Their nose structure is unique. Their forehead is slightly different. All that kind of thing. And I've seen about 7 to 5 different types in my lifetime. Which is, and I don't know whether I'm cursed or privileged, Bob, frankly. Yeah,
but some people, it's probably meant to be for you to see these people, because there will come a time when you will come in contact with them more and be able to talk to them freely. Yes.
You're right, Bob. And in the process of all that, as I say, I got some horrendous mind control goings on with it all. Mind invasive technology was used upon me to try and control me. But as you profoundly said before we went on air, Bob, all you're doing is talking about what's out there. And that's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the thing is that
and if people don't like it, you know,
yes.
and some people don't like it, but we're only telling the truth, what's out there. What you see is what you give.
It's absolutely right, Bob. The thing is, matey, is that I think anybody, you know, as we say in Yorkshireman to another, anybody can pick up the BS. Anybody can pick up when somebody's kind of like. But what is interesting is I wouldn't be on your show now if I wasn't. I think the truth, it tends to seek like water. And I think those who are lying will kind of like fall by the wayside. And those of us who are up for the truth, you've got to sort out, I think, Bob, who do you speak for in all this? Do you speak narcissistically for yourself on some sort of power trip, thinking that you're somewhat special, which was a trap that I fell into years back, and it all you can't make sense of anything then, Bob? Or do you sort out who you're speaking for and what it's all about? And that's where we're at the moment. I say we, but maybe me and others. That's where I'm at the moment, Bob.
Yes, and that's good for you as well, to come out and talk about all this. Because a lot of people would get frightened and say, that's me, no more, I'm not talking about it no more. And that's what they want you to do.
Yes.
Don't talk about it, but you to come out and say, this is where I am, this is what I'm looking at, and this is what I've seen. Yes,
that's absolutely correct, Bob. About 3 weeks ago, I had a very nasty psychic attack where they threatened me. I'll keep it light for your listeners, but they more or less said, you're not going to wake up again if you keep talking like this. Because, you know, it's just the human... it's interesting to note, Bob, however, that it is interesting to see the... what's the word I'm looking for? The interactions between these esoteric type intelligences that we don't see as mainstream society. And, you know, it's very interesting to see all that happen. Because this issue is about evolution and spirituality, it even means that such stuff that's kind of like esoterically controlling the human race needs to evolve at some level as well. And that's kind of like the staggering conclusion that I've reached. That's taken me 16 years to get here, which isn't too bad. But I think what is a worry, what is a concern, Bob, is the fact that you have people out there who knew about my interactions and who I was before I did, and they had the helicopter over the house. They've been, you know, they were following me. They knew about me before I did. That means that they knew a bit more about my experiences before I did. And I'm hoping that my experiences will evolve completely and utterly beyond what they did to me, because what they did to me was an absolute nightmare. As I say, waking me up at the morning to go, you know, alarm clocks in the head, all this kind of thing. And it's rigorously denied in society that this technology is available. Rigorously denied, Bob, that this technology is available to do this to the public, and it is available. And it's there, and there's a very long grisly history about that as well.
And
so one has got...
There's many a time when people have spoken out in the past and they've gone missing. Totally gone missing, completely.
Yeah. Yes. That has happened as well. That has happened as well. There's been quite a few researchers who have kind of like gone down that route, and yes, they have. And we do. It's a very nasty cover-up out here, Bob, regarding the UFO phenomenon. The fact that we're not alone is a very high-level cover-up. I hazard a guess that members of the British royal family are aware of what goes on with the UFO phenomena. People like Obama, Putin, the Prime Minister, that they're aware. They're aware that we're not alone, but for some reason there is a cover-up. And it could be a multifaceted issue as to why there is a cover-up. I've had people come up to me at conferences, a lady who was a civil servant, and she kept, retired civil servant, Bob, came up to me and told me that she'd worked for a government department, a very charming woman, she'd retired. She said, and she wanted to go on the circuit and speak about all this. She said, but she knew what it was like to get heat. And she knew what it was like. And she said, we were dealing with strange things in my department, including, she said, the cattle stuff that went on, cattle disappearing, cattle being mysteriously injured. And she said, that panicked us a great deal. We didn't know what we were dealing with, she said. And she bid me good day, Bob, and wandered off. and she was a very charming lady. But
that was quite nice for her to come up and speak to you.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah, and two other guys have come up to me from the RAF, or said they were in the RAF, indicating that they were aware and that they had something downing an eye somewhere, but they couldn't go into too much details. And well done for speaking out. And on the way they went as well. So it just they're out there. It's real. This phenomena is real, Bob. Real as clear as day, and we are not alone. No way. We alone.
Oh, definitely. Because it's seen every day. Every day somebody's seen something, and they've got videos of them.
They have. They've got the videos of it, and then you've kind of got the people like myself who are one level above all that, where we're actually liaising with the people behind them. What I will say, Bob, is when that incident happened to me, when it came over the house, and I know when they're over the house, I know when it's over the house, and I know when the craft is kind of like, happened in Southport, happened near York here. What was interesting was that they gave the impression that they were strangers in a stranger's land, Bob. They just gave this impression to me, this communicated impression that they were strangers in a stranger's land. This area, this country, this earth, just strange to them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And the fact that they were respectful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was nice. That was nice then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and the fact that they were being respectful of our country's airspace. I got this kind of like telepathic kind of thing from them that we are aware that we're in your country's airspace, and we are aware that our craft is quite a piece of kit. It's cloaked. It wouldn't come up on radar. It's cloaked. It sees probably it sees what's going on before anybody else does, kind of thing. And this was the staggering things that were going on. So they're intelligent people, Bob, and I just hope I can learn from them. But the cost to me, Bob, has been dear. It's been dear. The personal cost has been horrifying, matey. And as you say, you how do you cope with a normal job? I did have a very big responsible job, actually. I really did. I enjoyed it. The job I had a big responsible job, but I walked away from it, Bob, because I couldn't cope anymore. This is the kind of cost that happens to people like myself with it. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I can understand that as well, because I've always said to, not jokingly, I do some volunteer work, and I always say to one of the girls, I said, if two men come in here, I'm not saying with black suits on, asking for me, I don't work here. End of.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know me or anything, because maybe one day somebody might walk in there, and for some unknown reason you might say, oh, Bob's in back. Silly thing.
Yeah.
Never thinking, because you've got to be aware of things like that, and that's why what's happened to you.
Yes. This is absolutely
It's ruined
this is right. Yeah,
but
it does. So it's all right, Bob, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got 4
Bob,
minutes left. We've got about 4 minutes left. It's gone ever so quickly. But I'd like you to come on the show again.
All right, Bob. Well, thank you. Yes, I'll do that. No problems.
I'd like you to come, if possible, the 25th of this month. That's a Wednesday, the 25th of November.
All right, Bob. Okay, that should be okay, but I'm not too sure. I'd have to check it there, but I might have a commitment on that. Will do.
In case you're busy.
Yeah.
It's same time, 8 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Right, Bob. No problems. Okay, well, we can certainly, I'm sure there's plenty to talk about, matey. There certainly is. So I'm sure we'll be able to sort something out there.
I'm sure we'll do. And I'll in the private message, I'll give you 2 names who might be able to help you.
All right. Okay. All right. That's all very good.
I'm
a bit of a lone wolf.
I've also been on my shows in the past, and very, very nice people, but do know a lot about aliens and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
Know a hell of a lot. And one of them.
No man's an island, Bob.
And one of the descriptions you said about blonde and blue eyes. One of the guys had met him. So
this is absolutely right.
Get in touch with him, and
that sounds excellent.
and he'll tell you more. about it.
That sounds
About
excellent.
the craft he was on as well.
Yeah, well, that sounds absolutely excellent, because the craft seems to be for me anyway, it's the key of inquisitive. I'm very inquisitive about this craft and what it does and what it doesn't do.
I've had him on the show. He explained to me what it was like inside, and the symbols inside these crafts as well. And they can,
there is, mate.
give your
yes,
thoughts.
There is. Yes, yeah.
So we're talking
Sanskrit,
like the same sort of thing.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Anyway, I'll put you in touch. I will give you his name, and you can get in touch with him.
Excellent.
And he's a super bloke. Him and his wife are very nice people.
Right.
And,
excellent.
But thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's been a pleasure.
No problems, mate. It just highlights to your listeners what goes on and the cost involved with people who are in contact with UFOs, the real life kind of scenarios that go on with them. Certainly does, I feel, Bob.
Yeah, it does, because there must be a lot of other people out there going through the same thing as you, but they've got nobody to talk to about it. That's
right. Yeah, this is correct. And so I get emails from all over the UK, really. People telling me their experiences. And people in positions of authority as well who've had experiences, Bob, who really don't want to talk about it in mainstream public, but they've had strange goings on. But they've,
they might lose their job, their livelihood.
Yeah, they'll lose. Yes, this is right. This is absolutely correct, matey. I think I'm one of the few in the UK who speaks out so boldly about it as I do. I've always been a man who's been controversial in that sense.
Well, you're a Yorkshireman, aren't you?
I am. And a spade is a spade, as we say in Yorkshire, Bob.
That's so true as well. Yeah, we can be outspoken sometimes.
Yes.
But what we say is what we give.
That's
and
it. Well, yes, that's right.
It's
true.
Lie.
It's a Yorkshire thing, US listener. Yeah. Don't
lie.
Yeah.
We don't lie.
Yeah.
If we see something, we tell the truth.
That's right. That's absolutely right, matey. This is absolutely correct. And people know a liar. People know when somebody's hoodwinking them. They do know. And that's probably why I've been in demand for so long, because people just like to listen and they like to learn something, and they hopefully go away with something, a better understanding of it all than what they did before they got in the room. If you get me drift,
Yes, I do. Yeah. Anyway, I'll go say thank you very much for coming on the show tonight, Tony.
All right.
You take care, and I would say the 25th of November, 8 o'clock. That's a Wednesday.
Right.
If you can't make it, I'll give you another date.
All right. That was very kind of you to have me in such... I don't normally get asked in such close proximity already, but if you want me to come back on again, it's fabulous.
Yeah, I want you to come back on again, because we can talk about something else or whatever you want to talk about. That's fine by me.
Okay then, Bob. That's all good. All good. All right then. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you. You take care and have a nice weekend.
Will do, Bob. All right. Catch you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.